Australians are inspired to understand their democracy.
What about me?
You listen to D.I.Wireless, an Aussie punk rock podcast. Check it out, mate.
Working 28 years for the company. Will I ever be secure financially? I don't know, gonna have to wait and see, but I don't wanna be here for...
Alright, g'day everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of D.I.Wireless. We've made it to the big 3-0. We should probably consider getting a real job, but we're not. We're still here. Now, if I told you that an Aussie band was about to do a tour of the US, you'd probably say to me, yeah, well, no big deal, you know, bands go over there all the time. But then if I told you that they were touring with the Dropkick Murphys and Frank Turner, you might sort of say, oh, that's pretty cool for a band to be able to hook something like that up. But then if I was to tell you that a band was touring with the Dropkick Murphys and Frank Turner on a St. Patrick's Day tour, and also playing St. Patrick's Day in Boston, and also playing a Celtic festival in Washington, D.C., where they're expecting around 30,000 people, you probably would not believe me at all. But this is actually happening, and it's happening to the man on the end of the line and his band called the Ramshackle Army. Via phone from Melbourne, we're talking to Gaz. Gaz, how you going, mate?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Oh, I love songs of whiskey, and I love songs of porter, and I love dancing with a mate and long into the night. Well, this day's better 10, and the fire it's burning. Oh, Lord, I will love every minute you live alive. Well, the sun is suddenly given to
The question I sort of asked you when I was getting in touch with you about the interview was, how the hell did all this happen? It really does sound almost too good to be true to be happening.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit chaotic, and it has been a bit of a surprise. Look, going back, our fiddle player Kat sent an email basically to Ken Casey a couple of years ago. Got in touch with him just randomly and managed to get up at No Sleep Till Melbourne with them last year and played a couple of songs.
Were they looking for a fiddle player, or was she just randomly sending an email out? Or
I think they met at a couple of years ago, just one of the Dropkick shows, and touched base, and we're talking about music and all that sort of stuff, and just kind of loosely held a little bit of contact. So, and then that was kind of the end of it. And then we heard they were coming out, and we didn't, we're still a minuscule band in terms of the scene and stuff like that. We're still pretty new, yeah. And all the supports got announced and all that sort of stuff, and marching orders were doing the Melbourne show, and Melbourne show sold out really, really quickly. So they announced a second one, and we were lucky enough to get onto that one. And yeah, so that went really well. I think there'd been a joking comment made to Kat. It'll be interesting if you guys managed to get to Boston in March next year, and it was kind of an off-the-cuff comment. Then we saw them. There was a couple of guys watching our set and all that sort of stuff during the forum show, and had some conversations afterwards. And they went back home. Thought not a lot of it. Some couple of emails backwards and forwards until we got an email from Danger Bird Management, which is the guys that look after them and Queens of the Stone Age, offering us 5 of the shows. First of which is House of Blues Atlantic City, moving up through Connecticut, Huntington, New York, and up to House of Blues Boston. And then the big one, which is Lowell, Massachusetts, the University of Massachusetts, their hockey stadium there, which is we're playing the matinee show on St. Pat's Day with them.
can you believe you're going to be playing a hockey stadium in Boston on St. Patrick's at Kick Murphys?
First of all, it was, we kind of knew about it for about a month, I'd say, before we could actually say anything about it. And that entire time, it just kind of wasn't happening. It just didn't make sense. And even now, it doesn't really make sense, like to us. So we got all the planning and everything, and then we're actually able to announce it. And then people start congratulating you and all that sort of stuff. And people who were amazingly supportive, helping out wherever they can with contacts and all that sort of stuff. And you start going, holy shit, this may actually get off the ground. Like, we hear all the horror stories about how hard the visa process is and how expensive it's going to be, and everything kind of seems against you, and you're like, you know what, this might actually get off the ground.
That's that sort of scenario that, particularly bands that would like a chance to tour overseas, it's that dream scenario of getting a good support and then hitting it off with the touring band for whatever reason, and getting the invite to go over there. Lots of people try to make that happen, and it doesn't happen.
It was it was great, and to be honest, we know that we'll never be able to repay the generosity. Like, Dropkick Murphys didn't have to do this at all. They could have got local support who would have done it for nothing, like kind of every band does here, just to say that they'd done it, and they didn't have to do anything for us, and they have. They've helped us out with teeing up contacts for gear and vans and all that sort of stuff. And it hasn't been that easy, because 5 shows is really hard to make a tour out of, particularly when it's going to cost you $30,000 to get over there and live and come back.
Yeah, right.
So trying to fill that tour out, all the travel arrangements, because we are an independent and self-managed band at the moment, so there's been a lot of staying up till 2 a.m., rocking up at, or getting up at 6 to have conference calls with the states to try and get these visas organised, organise local shows and all that sort of stuff. But it's been amazing. Like, the amount of people who've just opened their houses, guys we've never met. There's a band called Beantown Booze Hounds out of Boston, and one of their dudes has been absolutely amazing. He's pretty much said, use our house as a base for a week and a half while you're in Boston. We've got a couple of early shows that week, but apart from that, that time, our entire gear can be used as your back line. Like, this is all guys I've never met. It's just been, it's pretty much been amazing.
This isn't just a luck thing. The guys from the Dropkicks must have been enjoyed your set when you guys played together in Melbourne.
It was pretty awesome to look out and see some of those dudes kind of standing in the crowd, because obviously as the opening band, the forum's nowhere near full, so you can see every man and his dog there. But Ken Casey standing side of stage and having supportive comments when you walk off and all that sort of stuff, and it was really great for us because they are so busy. And there were, I know times on the tour where they've rocked up to towns just as, the support bands are going on kind of thing, or they've rocked up from their hotel or because they're running around. We were kind of lucky. Everything kind of fell into line because they'd had a show in Melbourne the night before. They kind of were already in town, already rested, rocked up to the venue early, so, they could come and see us. And, don't get me wrong, I feel like we kind of have worked our ass off, but there are so many other bands who've done exactly the same thing as us. And we, just hopefully we can take advantage of it.
Mate, let's, as we do with all our guests, let's invite you to play some tracks on the show. What are you going to play for us as the first song on the show today?
Obviously, I thought I'd stick to the Celtic punk theme, because I could go to all the other stuff we listen to, but maybe a lot of the listeners don't get that involved in the music. So I thought I'd stick with, my favourite Celtic punk band out of Melbourne would have to be The Currency, and so I thought I'd chuck in their song 888.
No worries at all. This is The Currency on D.I.Wireless. We're chatting to Gaz from the Ramshackle Army, and we'll be back shortly.
You said you'd meet me at the corner of Russell and Victoria. When I arrived, you weren't there. So I opened up the bottle of red I brought to share and sat upon the monument stairs. It says here, my battle's fought and won. A victory's long time coming. An 8-hour day, an honest working wage. It's just history sitting on the steps of the 8-hour monument, drinking my day away. Sitting on the steps of the 8-hour monument, thinking what would the ghosts of a great
Trades Hall, and behind me the old Melbourne jail. I bought a souvenir mug to drink out of with the dank mask of Edward Kelly. Ned's parting word, such is life. Where in heavens are you? What the hell am I to do? And how on earth did it end up this way? Sitting on the steps of the 8-hour monument, drinking my day away. Sitting on the steps of the 8-hour monument, thinking, what would they say? Sitting on the steps of the 8-hour monument, drinking my day away. Sitting on the steps of the 8-hour monument, thinking, what would the ghosts of a great-grandparent say?
Okay, that was The Currency with 888, and you're listening to D.I.Wireless, where we're chatting to Gaz from the Ramshackle Army, who are about to embark on really the tour of a lifetime, going over to support the Dropkick Murphys and Frank Turner on a St. Patrick's Day tour, as well as threading in some shows of their own. Now, one of the things that you're playing in addition to that tour, Gaz, is... you alluded to it earlier. There's actually a festival in Washington, D.C., of all places, a massive I think it's called Shamrock Festival. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Had you even heard of it before?
To be honest, no. Basically, it's the more I looked into it, the more impressed I was. 10 stages, 50 bands, or 50 acts, because I think they have some DJs and stuff as well. But they're expecting 30,000. It's at Robert F. Kennedy Stadium, which is where the Washington Redskins used to play.
Yep.
There's an Irish village where pubs have stands and all this sort of stuff, pub games. They've got a best woman in kilt contest, the best man in kilt contest, and they're playing the National Gaelic Football Championships there at the same time. So it's just going to be out of control.
Are you going to get any time to enjoy the festival itself, or do you have to sort of duck in and out because you're playing other shows?
We're kind of working our way from the St. Pat's Day show on the 17th. We slowly work our way through New York, Philly, Baltimore, leading up to the following Saturday, which is Shamrock Fest, and then we're there kind of all day. I can imagine we're going to be running around like idiots. The lineup hasn't come out yet, so I'm not sure where exactly and when we're playing on what stage, but I think we'll be checking out a hell of a lot of bands that day. And
you also said you were sort of surprised at the sort of support that was shown of people trying to piece together individual shows to go along with the main tour with the Dropkicks. What other shows are you playing? You're even playing on the West Coast, I understand?
Yeah, so we, funnily enough, before, because the Celtic punk scene is so international and so, tight-knit, I'd been speaking to some guys before this from California. There's a couple of bands, one called Hoisted Colours and one called Lexington Field. One's from San Diego, one's from LA. And when I touched base with those guys, they were, if you have to fly into LAX anyway, then you've got to stop by here. So we ended up, basically handed over the first weekend to them and said, go nuts.
And you said that there's been obviously a colossal amount of shit to organise for a band going over there. What's been the biggest shit fight of it all, do you think?
I would say visas has been it, mainly because we had no idea what to expect. Even speaking to people who had done it, 3 or 4 years ago. They went through a little bit of an overhaul and tightened everything up. So whereas before, certain areas of contracts and things like that, they were a lot looser on, and you could kind of make stuff up and finalise the details later. They wanted a lot more proof. It's taking us 2 months to get all basically the information to say that we're actually a band.
Yeah.
And we've been together you've got to be at least together for 12 months and show all this documentation and media articles that you're internationally renowned, which for a little band from Melbourne is pretty tough.
Yeah.
So, we've been really lucky that the Celtic punk community is kind of international. So the first reviews of our EP and all that sort of stuff came from, I think the first one came from Spain. Yeah, it's crazy. And there was another one came out of there's a site called Paddy Rock out of Chicago, and then there was one out of Germany, which was interesting because I had to get it translated to work out what was going on. But yeah, so all of that sort of stuff came before we'd ever been reviewed in Melbourne.
Did you get your mum to dodgy up any articles?
No, we were actually okay. We threw together a few reference letters, and some people may have sounded more important than they actually are. People have asked, why didn't you go over on a holiday visa and all that sort of stuff, but it's just not worth it. If they, the peace of mind of not having to watch your back, or the horror stories that you hear about bands rocking up at the door and then being sent home, and they can realistically ban you from the States for 10 years. So it's just not worth it. I'd much prefer to do everything the right way.
You don't want to fuck with those seppos. They can be pretty dangerous. Yeah. Let's play some more music on the show. We'll take a break from chatting. What's the second you're gonna play for us on today's show, mate?
Yeah, well, I did mention Lexington Field, and if I do send him this podcast and he listens to it, he's going to hate the fact that I'm going to tell him that it kind of sounds like being Californian, like a bit of Fat Mike and No Effects singing Celtic punk. It's Lexington Field with Tracy Boyce Fight the World.
No worries at all. I'm interested to hear this. If it's Fat Mike as if he was in Flogging Molly, I'm interested to hear it. So we're gonna go with Lexington Field now. A choice from Gaz from the Ramshackle Army. We'll be back with D.I.Wireless shortly.
Close the shots
right, that was Lexington Fields, and one of the bands that is going to be hosting or playing a show with the Ramshackle Army when they head over to the US in March, which is coming up very shortly. And we're talking to Gaz from the band, and Gaz, I was wondering, I actually read an interview in doing a little bit of research before this interview. I read an interview, and I don't know if it was you personally or there was, people in the bands that growing up had, very basic sort of punk rock influences, like everything from sort of Body Jar to The Living End. How do those influences then all of a sudden sort of morph into being in a Celtic punk band?
Well, I think you'd find it'd be very hard to find a band who only had one specific set of influences. We've all come. I grew up in the 90s punk of kind of Melbourne, your Body Jars, and going to pushover festivals in the 90s where The Living End were the first band on, Frenzal Rom, Coughing Up a Storm era, all that sort of stuff we grew up listening to. And we've all come from backgrounds of some of the guys listened to more hardcore and metal, and some of the dudes were more street punk. Kat, obviously, being a fiddle player, has come from a more classical background, but you just kind of meet at a like-minded place, I guess. I mean, my grandfather came over from Ireland in the 50s, so there was always that kind of Irish element in the traditions in the family, and some of the other guys with more of a folk influences from their family and all that sort of stuff. So
it wasn't a conscious decision, like when you guys first got together, it's like, oh, we want to do the Celtic sort of thing. It was just that was the music that eventually came out.
Well, the other guys were in a kind of a similar style band called the Hornswogglers. Nathan, the guitarist, and I were actually the last members to join.
Sure.
But they didn't use a lot of, there wasn't banjo and mandolin at that stage. And so they went through a bit of a restructure and a little bit of a rethink of the sound. And I didn't actually know any of the guys. They advertised for, they just advertised kind of for folk punk. So I'm thinking more of the Against Me angle and all that sort of stuff. And Al showed up and listens to a lot of, grew up on Dropkick Murphys and the family stuff that comes through, Dubliners and Pogues and all that sort of stuff. And went, wow, this is kind of not what I was expecting, but, one of those happy surprises kind of thing. And so I joined the band, and then Lachlan wanted to experiment with a few of those other instruments, so we got in a guitarist, and that's when Nathan came in, and he'd been doing a little bit of solo, kind of more folky stuff anyway, so that kind of fit.
So it sounds like it all came together pretty naturally, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's still elements of, being different backgrounds. We all might stand in a rehearsal and have an argument over which direction a song can take, but that's part of the creative process. And if you don't have those, then you end up being a band that all your songs sound the same. And if you don't start changing what you listen to, I guess all your albums will sound the same.
And you were mentioning, mate, you've mentioned the currency already, but there's other bands that you'd sort of group in that sort of Celtic punk sort of range, guys like the Rumjacks, and you also mentioned the Go Set. It seems, there's a lot of bands really killing it within this sort of genre in Australia at the moment. Can you put that down to anything in particular, or you just think it's just a good time that a lot of bands are around and they're all good bands?
Yeah, it is really strange. I guess music goes through themes, obviously. It gets really difficult for bands where there's a hell of a lot of bands in the genre. It's hard to stand out as, say, a pop punk band or something like that, because there are lots of bands in the same thing. The Australian bands within this genre, I could count the ones that spring to mind on two hands. And we're in a scene which allows us to play a lot. So it allows you to get your name out there. And I guess people pick up people like moving around and dancing. One of the things that we found that, the Rumjacks in Sydney, it seems like they're playing every second week, and people are always rocking up to shows, and they're doing amazingly well, and have done so over a 4 or 5 year period. And they're now getting recognition, saying it's signed to ABC music label.
Yeah.
It's just taking off for them. But they've worked their ass off, playing a lot of years, playing a lot of shows. and it's the style of music that we've found that we don't play with a lot of Celtic punk bands, but we get asked to play a lot of things like, CD launches and stuff, where you can be main support or whatever, because we're different enough not to kind of tread on anyone's toes, but you kind of may have that fun bit of a vibe where people can enjoy the music even if they don't know it. We've done a residency on a Sunday afternoon at some pubs, all that sort of stuff. It's opened up a hell of a lot of venues that, in previous bands when I played in punk and hardcore bands, and you wouldn't have the exposure to those venues.
Is it hard not to be, I was trying to think of a way to describe this, but when you're dialing into, I guess, the sort of colonial sound and the colonial history of what's going on in Australia, is it hard not to be sort of stereotypical and tacky in what you're sort of playing?
I've come from a place, I guess, where not a lot of the punk sound, and yet whether it be your street punk or your pop punk and all that sort of stuff, I've always found it difficult to sound natural and have that Ocker accent. Not everyone can be a Jay from Frenzell, and sound legit doing it. But having this where you can relax into it and you're telling kind of more stories, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. And I'm finding myself more comfortable the more songs we write to that effect. Justin from The Currency does it amazingly, and I just love watching him sing and play, because he's telling you these stories to a really good band. So it just rings true, and it just seems honest when certain people do it.
Yeah, sure. Let's play some more music. Third song you're going to play for us on the show. Another one from your collection. What are you going to play?
Yeah, this one is by a Swedish Celtic punk band with a boy straight out of Dublin as the lead singer. This is a band called Sir Reg, and of all the top 10s of the Celtic punk websites this year, these guys have smashed it 2 years in a row. This is off their last album, and it's called Drink Up Your Sinners.
I can't imagine Swedes being in a Celtic punk band. I'm interested to hear this. This is Sir Reg with the song Drink Up Your Sinners on D.I.Wireless. We'll be back with Gaz from Ramshackle Army shortly.
You're selling the car and move back to your Mars and you give off your dough. You look to the future and hope it'll change, but you're still kidding, lawyer, you threw it all away. Drink up your sinners, drink all you can, drink away your sorrows, you're an Irishman. Drink up your sinners, drink all you can, drink away your sorrows, you're an Irishman. Drink up your sinners, drink all you can, drink away your sorrows, you're an Irishman. Drink up your sinners, drink all you can, drink away your sorrows, you're an Irishman.
That was Sir Reg, a Swedish Celtic punk band. Definitely that's a first for D.I. Wireless. And we're wrapping things up with Gaz from the Ramshackle Army as he's about to embark with his band on a massive US tour. Have you been able to think anywhere beyond this tour yet, or about plans for the future, Gaz?
It has been hard because getting all the momentum, and this has been a bit of a confidence booster about let's go out and attack what's happening later in the year. It's really hard to focus when you've got something so near. But we've just been added to, or announced a couple of weeks ago, Cherry Rock in Melbourne, run by some pretty significant rock personalities in Melbourne. They have a festival once a year, and it's on, Cherry Bar's actually on AC/DC Lane. And they set up a stage in the lane itself and run a stage inside, and it's 15 bands running all day. And this year's headliners are stoner rockers, Fu Manchu, who haven't been out to Australia for 10 years.
Yeah.
We've also been talking to a bit of a team. Obviously, everyone knows what Dropkicks have done with the Bruins and all that sort of stuff. And we've been in discussions with Melbourne's ice hockey team, the Melbourne Ice, about doing a little bit of something with them. And they actually came to the Dropkick show and really enjoyed it. So I've been speaking to their president and stuff, and this is their 10-year anniversary. And they're doing some celebrations and stuff for that. So they're actually giving the Ramshackle Army jerseys with the number 10 for the anniversary and the name Ramshackle across the back for us to take over to the States.
And mate, before you even get on the plane, you've got to launch your latest EP. That's very soon.
Yeah. So we're launching, or we're just releasing the single "Rue the Day," which is the second track off Life Lessons Drunken Sessions, which we released last year, which had some pretty good feedback. We made a couple of the top 10s for EPs and releases last year for the worldwide Celtic punk website, so that was pretty fun for us. So yeah, it should be a pretty awesome night. It's our launch and it's our farewell, and thanks for the support to everyone over the last couple of months. We've been really, really shit people to be around because we've been stressed and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be a big release, and hopefully it's all organised now so we can have a big sigh of relief and just get drunk, really. That
sounds like a good plan to me. And why not play one of your songs to head out? We'll play one of the songs from Life Lessons and Drunk Sessions. What song are we going to play?
Well, I think it's just logical that we play the single that we're about to release. So this is Rue the Day.
No worries at all. Absolutely best of luck, not only with the single launch, but the big tour over in the States, mate. Hopefully everything falls into place and you have a great time. Gaz from the Ramshackle Army, we appreciate you chatting to us. Thanks very much.
No worries, mate.